Hey guys, before we start today's video, I have to tell you about an exciting new sponsor for the channel. Foco. Foco is a sports merchandise store. They have stuff for all different types of sports leagues, and I know most of the viewers of my channel would want some MLB merchandise at an affordable price, and they have stuff for every single team. They were nice enough to send me some stuff. In addition to that Mets sleeve, they also sent me this awesome Dustin Pedroia plaque. Pedroia is one of my favorite players of all time. Let's go Short Kings. And they have plenty of other great sports merchandise on their website, so if that sounds like something that might interest you, make sure you click the link below in the description, which will take you right to all their baseball merchandise that they have available right now. They have bobbleheads, cool shirts, straw hats, anything you could possibly imagine. Foco has it, and they were nice enough to partner with me for this video and future videos. So I definitely endorse them, and I think you should go give them some support. Once again, if that sounds like something that might interest you, make sure you hit the link down below and go check out what they have to offer. Alright, on with the video. There's nothing I enjoy more than watching guys you wouldn't expect to ball out completely stuff the stat sheet in the early goings of a new season. Early in this season, it's been guys like Tyler Naquin, Ryan McMahon, and Nate Lau leading the charge in that category. And since we're in that time frame right now, I feel like it's a pretty good time to talk about guys that have done that in the past. There have been tons of players who aren't household names but got off to crazy hot starts to start a season, and in different instances that led to a career year or simply a one-month wonder. Without further ado, these are baseball's forgotten hot starts. Let's get into it. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I think of Didi Gregorius, I'll always think of him in pinstripes. And I specifically remember his 2018 season for the crazy hot start he got off to. During the home opener against the Rays, Didi had a 4-hit game with 2 home runs and a career-high 8 RBIs. He'd hit safely in 18 of his 28 games in April, including a 9-game hit streak in the middle of the month. He'd also tally 8 multi-hit games, with half of those being 3 hits or more. By the end of the month, Gregorius had 10 home runs, the most of any shortstop that early in a season since 1908. He was named AL Player of the Week for the last week of April, and on May 3rd he was awarded the Player of the Month award for April. His performance might have had something to do with the short porch, as 9 of his 10 home runs came in home games, but still, a great showing for Didi early in the 2018 season. By the end of the season, Didi would finish top 20 in MVP voting for a second consecutive year despite failing to make the All-Star team, a feat which he has surprisingly never accomplished. Didi would unfortunately have to get Tommy John surgery by season's end, but still put together a career year ahead of his contract year in 2019. And as much as he fits on his new team, I don't think I'll ever get used to seeing Didi in a red Phillies uniform. He will always be a Yankee. Staying in the Yankees division, let's talk about the Boston Red Sox and Hanley Ramirez. Now, Ramirez was a star shortstop for many years during his time with the Marlins and Dodgers, but by the time he got to Boston, he was 31, past his prime, and couldn't play his original position anymore. Still, this earned him a 4-year, $88 million contract, and Boston fans were hopeful that his play in left field and first base could be serviceable enough to get his great bat in the lineup every day. And for the first month of this experiment, it looked like their hopes would be answered. Hanley's first month as a Red Sox went incredibly well, starting on opening day where he played left field for the first time in his career and hit 2 home runs, one of them being a broken bat grand slam. In the 20 games he started in April, Hanley would hit safely in 16 of them, with 9 multi-hit games spread out across the month. However, a left shoulder sprain would derail the first year of his new contract, and honestly, the rest of his Boston time would be hampered with injuries. But that first month he had was something special. A 10 home run month with an OPS a smidge under 1,000 is certainly amazing. It's a shame he couldn't keep it up for Boston fans. By the way, this video isn't gonna only be hitters. Let's talk about our first pitcher on today's list. This one may surprise you. Jordan Zimmerman signed a 5-year, $110 million contract with the Detroit Tigers that's remembered with pretty bad memories nowadays. What most may not remember is that he actually got off to a crazy good start in Detroit in the first year of that pretty bad contract. He started the season on a 25-inning scoreless streak and had the lowest ERA in MLB for the month of April among qualified pitchers. Jordan Zimmerman was named the American League Pitcher of the Month for April, and during the month of April, Zimmerman allowed just 2 earned runs in 33 innings pitched for a 0.55 ERA. He was also 5-0 in that time frame, becoming the 6th pitcher to finish April with 5+ plus wins, no losses, and a sub-1 ERA. The other members of that club are Fernando Valenzuela, Randy Johnson, Cliff Lee, Zach Greinke, and Ubaldo Jimenez. Pretty elite company. His .55 ERA was the third best mark in April for Tigers history, and the only two Detroit pitchers with better ERAs in that time frame were Bernie Boland and John Hiller, both taking place before 1975. However, as most baseball fans know, Zimmerman's quality would tail off, and he'd strain his neck and go on the DL in July, and his time in Detroit would never be the same. He finished his Detroit career with a 5.63 ERA over 97 games started, and he's now in the Milwaukee minor league system. Yeesh. For our next entry, let's stay in the division and on the topic of pitchers. Coming off a solid campaign for Minnesota in 2016, expectations were considerably high for Ervin Santana as the ace of the Twins staff, and he did not disappoint. On opening day against the Royals in 2017, he pitched 7 innings while only allowing a solo home run and 2 hits. He followed that with back-to-back scoreless starts against the Chicago White Sox, the latter being a complete game 1-hit shutout. He pitched another shutout against the Orioles later in May, followed by a third shutout against the Giants in June. Ervin Santana became the first pitcher in AL history to record 3 shutouts in a season since Rick Porcello in 2014, and the first to do so prior to the All-Star break since Justin Masterson in 2013. His first 6 starts specifically were dominant, where he'd have the lowest ERA in MLB among qualifying pitchers, as well as placing top 5 in WHIP and having the most complete games out of any pitcher in that time frame as well. And the All-Star nod and Cy Young votes he got in 2017 would be the last for his impressive career. Alright, let's get back to the hitters now, shall we? This entry is probably my favorite on the list, mostly because of how familiar I am with it as a Mets fan. Coming off 3 consecutive seasons of less than 115 games played, the clock seemed like it was running out of time for 32-year-old Ryan Zimmerman in 2017. Hand and back injuries had fans believing his era of Nationals baseball might have been over. This is what made his offensive outburst at the beginning of 2017 so special. Zim would hit safely in 21 of the 23 games he started in April, including 12 multi-hit games and 5 3-hit games. The lowest his batting average would get would be 300 on the 5th game of the season, and his OPS only dipped below 1,000 one time during the first month of the season. After striking out 10 times in the first 8 games, he'd strike out just 9 times over his next 20 games. His approach to the plate was definitely different as well, as he only drew 5 walks in the month of April and was clubbing every baseball in sight. Zimmerman would hit 6 home runs in the final week of April, also recording the longest home run ever hit at Nationals Park at 470 feet on April 29th. His stats over the first 30 games of the season are video game-esque. He would finally make it back to the All-Star game for the first time in the last 8 seasons, and he placed top 20 in National League MVP voting for the first time since 2010. Although the Nationals wouldn't get a ring until a couple years later in 2019, Ryan Zimmerman's return to form was a beacon of hope for the DC faithful. Per the recording of this video, 36-year-old Ryan Zimmerman has played in 6 games in 2021 with a .381 batting average. He's still kicking it. The next entry is a guy that could probably fit on the MLB Players We Forgot About series a few years down the line, being that he's still in the league. After injuries to Tommy Pham, Johnny Peralta, and Ruben Tejada in 2016 for the Cardinals, Aledmys Diaz unexpectedly found himself as the everyday starting shortstop for a competitive team. The rookie didn't fail to take the spotlight though, and got raging hot in his first month as a major leaguer. Aledmys Diaz would record multi-hit performances in 8 of his first 21 games in the bigs, including an amazing 5-hit game against the San Diego Padres on April 23rd of that month. His dominant April would earn him All-Star honors in his very first season, replacing teammate Matt Carpenter on the National League roster. Diaz also placed 5th in National League Rookie of the Year voting in 2016, but he's yet to return to this caliber of play since. However, replicating solid play at shortstop, a 500 on-base percentage, and an OPS over 1.3 isn't exactly an easy feat. His seasons in Toronto and Houston have been average, but who knows? Maybe Diaz can find the spark again and possibly return to peak performance if he plays every day. Our next entry is also the last pitcher for today, and another guy that could possibly fit on MLB Players We Forgot About. Maybe I should be taking notes about this. However, I believe that Nick Martinez fits even better in the style of today's video, specifically for his efforts way back in 2015. Now, expectations were pretty low for Nick Martinez considering he was an 18th round draft pick in 2011, but in his sophomore season, he'd turn heads as the season kicked into gear. He'd start the year on a 15-inning scoreless streak and had the lowest ERA among qualifying qualified starters by April's end. He had a streak of 5 consecutive quality starts to start the season and had just 1 non-quality start in his first 2 months. His performance would come back down to earth eventually, and by season's end, he'd be an average starter, with his most notable stat being leading the league in hit by pitches. Martinez wouldn't blow a lot of guys away. He had only a 3.8 K per 9 during this stretch, but I do remember how efficient he was on my fantasy team, and that's the reason he makes the list today. He was crafty and good at getting ground balls, and I really like watching pitchers that are able to do that on a consistent basis. And now we've made it to the last entry on today's list, and one of my current favorite players in MLB. After getting a cup of coffee with the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2016 before being flipped in the Gene Segura-Ketel Marte trade, Mitch Henniger found his calling in the early goings of the 2018 season with the Mariners. He was coming off a productive yet injury-shortened rookie campaign, but he picked up right where he left off, batting .309 with 10 home runs and 27 RBIs in the first month of the 2018 season. He'd homer in 4 straight games against the Texas Rangers and Chicago White Sox in the middle of the month, and recorded 5 separate 3-hit games during the first month as well. He'd be selected to the All-Star team, which is still his first and only selection, although he hopes to change that in 2021. His all-around performance also got him 1 placement shy of top 10 in MVP voting in 2018, which surprised me when I looked at it. I'm sure most of you are aware of the not-so-great injury he suffered in 2019. Ow. So here's hoping 2021 is a reawakening for our guy Mitch. While an OPS of 1.112 and a .324 batting average may be tough to replicate consistently, Mitch Henniger plays a solid outfield, has a solid bat, and will get plenty of playing time for the Seattle Mariners in 2021. Alright guys, that's all I got today. I'm the Jolly Olive, and I'll see you guys next time.